Hey folks, coming to you from an undisclosed location somewhere deep in the heart of the Santa Monica Mountains, I am your intrepid host, L.A. Marzulli. Welcome to a very special presentation. Honored guest here, author Jonathan Cahn will be joining us. First, a word from our very trusted sponsor. Folks, a new survey found that 1 in 3 Americans feel most self-conscious about their body at the beach. More than anywhere else. Gee, I wonder why. Summer is here, folks. The trips, the pool days, the photos are already happening. And if you've been eating better, cutting back, generally trying, but cravings keep taking over no matter what, that's not you being weak. Your hunger hormones are working against you. This is why I love GLP-1. Folks, we've taken twice a day. I've noticed the difference. I have dropped 10 pounds since I've been on it. Plus, I'm doing the carnivore diet. But instead of a pharmaceutical override, GLP-1 uses clinically studied plant-based ingredients like metabolate to naturally restore body's own hunger control signals. In clinical studies, it raised GLP-1 levels by 56% and cut calorie intake by 20%. No prescriptions, no needles, just quieter cravings, real fullness, and a body I'm becoming more proud of. And not that I want to take my shirt off yet, but I'm getting close, folks. Anyway, to kick off summer, get 51% off only at trimwithla.com, trimwithla.com. Every order comes with free VIP coaching for life, a 60-day satisfaction guarantee, free express shipping with subscriptions. Once again, trimwithla.com, trimwithla.com. Honestly, folks, I've been taking it for months. I have noticed the difference. I've dropped 10 pounds. Thanks for watching. So, folks, I am honored and privileged to have, and Jonathan Cahn has been on my show before, but he's got a new book out, and it's on the altar of Pergamon. And, you know, I know something about the book. I have not read it yet. I've got a whole bunch of questions here. But as a student of World War II and Hitler and the occult and all those ties, I think this is going to be a really cool romp. So we'll get into that. Jonathan, thanks so much for joining me. Really appreciate it.
Always great. Always great to be with you.
Yeah. So, you know, question, I'm going to skip down here.
Yeah.
So you talk about the Thule Society or the Thule Society. Different people have different pronunciations of that. But this was this organization, and I forget the 2 women, they had really long hair down to the floor, and they were mediums, they were channelers. So, I mean, and then you get Vadelsberg Castle with the room underneath with the black sun and the skulls. I mean, it's so dark and so bizarre, and most people have no idea. And so you just dive into it with both feet. Tell us about that, please.
Yeah. Well, okay. To start, you know, it goes back. I mean, just as we're saying, all this goes back that there is a real devil, there is a real Satan, there is a real, you know, and it is, you know, Isaiah speaks of him in Isaiah 14 he says, I will ascend, I will lift up my throne of Satan. You know, I'll sit where the Most High sits, you know. And so that's there. And then you've got in Revelation, it speaks, there is a place on earth that the Bible says is the throne of Satan. I mean, that's big. That's big.
Huge.
And this, by the way, is going to converge with everything you just said.
Okay.
By the way, my father came from that. I'm not from a cult. My father came from Germany under Hitler. You know, I exist he got out at the last minute, you know, wow. But this is real. So yeah, the thing is, so the thing is that it says that there's a place Pergamon is the throne of Satan. So now, if you go to Pergamon, I don't know if you've ever been there, but I never have. I came back first time. With the center of Pergamon was this high place where they had the worship of the gods, and they had the thing called the Great Altar. You know, and this was the most massive altar the Greeks ever built on planet Earth. I mean, massive. And to the king of the gods, you know, Zeus, Jupiter. But of course, we know behind the gods is Satan. You know, he's sure. You know, and so you know, what happened was when the gospel came into the world, came into the empire, the people abandoned the gods. They abandoned the altar, and the altar or the throne of Satan goes underground or it goes into ruins. It's under, and the gospel goes to the world, and the power of the enemy is restrained. There's always evil in the world, but with the gospel, it restrains the enemy. And so you got that. You got the throne of Satan in the ground. Okay, so Now, this is going to sound like Indiana Jones, or it's going to sound like a movie or Lord of the Rings or Da Vinci Code, but real, but it is actually real, totally real. The altar of pergamon. What would happen if this altar gets dug up, if it gets unearthed?
There you go.
It happens. And again, it's, by the way, I'll put this into it just so people aren't confused. The book I wrote the book like I wrote the Harbinger, and that is, the revelation is totally real. It's all real, but it's revealed through a story or a thriller kind of thing where, so that's what, but it's real. Okay. And I think we counted about 200 mysteries in this book, but so it's what we're talking about. Everything I'm talking about is real. So a guy comes from Europe. He comes to Pergamon. His name is Carl Humann. He stumbles upon it, the runes, and he doesn't know what it is, but he takes two pieces and he sends it back to his homeland. And his homeland now is going to have pieces of the throne of Satan, and ultimately is going to be totally joined to the throne of Satan. So what was his homeland? His homeland was Germany.
There you go.
So Germany is, and again, this is like Indiana Jones because you got Nazis, but this is real. And so Germany has the throne. It's going to have the throne of Satan. Now, it's not just that, but Germany didn't even exist until 1871. It was, unlike England and France, it wasn't a nation until 1871. Well, the throne of Satan comes into the world comes back in 1871. Germany at the same moment comes into the world. And at the same moment, there's another guy named Heinrich Schliemann who is digging up, searching for Troy, the lost city of Troy. And he finds these almost 2,000 versions of an ancient sign. And the sign comes out and becomes a big sensation, and Germany loves the sign. It's called the swastika. It all happened at the same moment. The throne of Satan, Germany, and the swastika all come into the world together. And so it's like a setup. And so what happens is Germany decides to go there and unearth the altar. And so they do. They dig it up and they put it on crates. They put it on animals. They take it down the mountain. They put it onto ships, goes across the world, put it on trains, goes to Berlin. So now the throne of Satan is in Berlin. Okay. And at the same, it's 1878 when they start digging it up and they start sending the pieces back. Well, the enemy hates the Jewish people. We know that.
Oh yeah.
Because, and it makes sense, and that's why there's the revival of anti-Semitism now, even in America.
That's right.
Because in the Bible, the devil is the dragon in Revelation, and he wars against the woman who gives birth to the Messiah, who's clearly Israel. So that war's going on, but that hatred all of a sudden starts erupting in Germany. And the thing is, today, there's always been hatred of Jewish people, but the word anti-Semitism is a new word, and it speaks of a movement and an ideology. Well, when it was born? It was born the moment the pieces of Satan's throne come to Germany. And it was born in Germany as the pieces arrived there. That's when 1878, 1879, that's when anti-Semitism is born. So now you've got Germany is being transformed. It's got the throne of Satan. It's being, you have the spread of anti-Semitism, and you have, to go with what you said at the beginning, what you have is you have an explosion of the occult, which is spreading throughout Germany. And people don't always realize this. This is what laid the groundwork for Hitler. You have anti-Semitism, and you have all sorts of occult, a revival happening all over. And that's what Hitler, is actually born into. And now the thing is that at the same time, the throne of Satan is now in Berlin. It's in pieces because they decide to rebuild it in Berlin. So they put the pieces together, thousands of pieces. They put it together. It's not even secret. It's not public. At the moment they finish it in 1889, this is the first time that the throne of Satan is appearing in the world since ancient times. The moment it appears in the world, something else appears in the world. A baby is born who's given the name Adolf Hitler.
There you go.
Hitler comes into the world with the throne of Satan. I mean, you can't make this up.
You can't make this up. No, I get it.
And his whole life is going to be joined to the altar. By the way, this mystery is behind the rise of Hitler, the rise of the Third Reich, World War I, The throne of Satan is behind World War II. It's behind the Holocaust. It's behind the Cold War. It's behind the New World Order. This particular object. I mean, this is how amazing it is. Even the internet is linked to it. And there's even an American leader who's very prominent. Everybody, it's not Trump, who's on the stage right now, who is actually linked to the altar of Pergamon and the throne of Satan. We can get into that. I don't think I want to reveal it totally, but it's there. So, okay, so what happens? After World War I, which is also linked to the throne of Satan, the altar, and listen, who starts it? Who's the main player? Germany. German is born with the altar. And this brings it destabilizes the world. It was all born in 1871. And so, but after the war, there's this occult society that you just alluded to. And by the way, it happens because a German guy goes to the land of the altar, goes to the Ottoman Empire, the Turkey, where the altar was, and comes back. The altar's already been brought back, but he comes back with this occultic revelations that he wants to give to Germany. So he starts a society called the Thule Society.
Right.
The Thule Society, total occult. They decide to start a movement to affect Germany, a party. The party becomes the Nazi Party. So the Nazi Party is literally birthed by an occult society, literally. So, people don't realize how steep this is and how this whole, there is the spiritual realm. And so what happens is the altar starts rising in Germany. They build a massive house for it called the Pergamon Museum. In the 1920s, it's rising. So they're going to display it to the world. They're going to open it up, to the world. Well, at the same moment that's rising, Hitler's rising. And the altar is displayed to the world. It opens up in 1930, in October, 1930. The same moment, Hitler actually, in 1928, the Nazi Party got 2% of the vote, 2%. But when the altar is opened up that autumn, the Nazi Party is catapulted to become the number 2 party in Germany overnight. And then it becomes number 1. And then it takes over Germany.
Right.
And you know what day that the altar was revealed it was, we know the exact day. You know how the enemy is a desecrator. He takes the things of God and he twists them. Well, it was unveiled to the world. The day was Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the Bible. Wow. And what is Yom Kippur about? It's about the altar of God, right. Salvation. And so this is the altar of Satan on the show the Lord of God. And Yom Kippur saved the Jewish people, and now it comes the altar of Satan to destroy the Jewish people. And when Hitler takes over, he orders his architect, a guy named Albert Speer.
Albert Speer, right?
Yeah, sure. And he orders him to build him a massive platform podium where he can rail to the masses. And when you see Hitler in front of it looks like 1 million people, that's Nuremberg. Yeah. He's speaking from this altar. I mean, speaking on the podium. Well, the podium that Albert Speer built for Hitler to stand on, when you see him raging, it was a reproduction of the altar of Pergamon. Literally, Hitler is standing on the throne of Satan when he is railing and invoking destruction on the world. The enemy is a destroyer. And this is all happening. And again, something you can't make up. And something that I don't know that Hitler even realized it. And even Albert Speer, he knew it was the altar of Pergamon, but he probably wasn't thinking throne of Satan. But he actually, so it's so clear. And then now to go even deeper, one of the mysteries is that what kind of altar was it? It was the altar of burnt offerings. Burnt offerings.
Here we go.
And the way you say that, I mean, think about it. An altar requires blood.
I know where you're going with this. I know where you're going.
An altar of burnt offerings requires burnt or fire offerings. So here's the thing. In the ancient language of the altar, which is the Greeks who built the altar, they didn't call the altar burnt offerings. They called it in Greek what the name for burnt offerings. In Greek, the word for burnt is kaustos. The word for holy burnt is holos. It becomes the word the Holocaust.
Exactly. I knew you were.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it is. So the throne of Satan is the altar of the Holocaust. And the moment those pieces arrived in Germany, this was coming. This was the plan of the enemy. And he made another amazing thing. People don't realize it, but in the first translation of the Bible, which is the Septuagint, the ancient Greek thing, The word in the Bible, the word Holocaust appears in the Bible. When God says to Abraham, offer up your son as the burnt offering, he says, offer up your son as the Holocaust. So here you have the whole nation of Israel contained in Isaac, and you have it being offered as a Holocaust. Well, then you go to Leviticus, and it says, these are the laws of the Holocaust. The fire will always be burning. You'll have ashes. That's the Holocaust. The Holocaust is the devil's sacrifice. He inverts the sacrifices of God, and now he uses it, instead of to save the Jewish people, to destroy them. And you know something, I'll share it here. I don't share it on a lot, but you go deep, and you're going ahead. So I'm going to share this. You know, in the Bible, there's the verse that says the altar of burnt offering was in the holy place. That's where it was. It was in the holy place. Well, what happens if you translate that Bible verse, that scripture, into the language of those who have the altar? Well, the burnt offering becomes the Holocaust. So the Holocaust was in the holy place. What's the holy place? In German, there's a word. It's linked to a Polish word, and it means the holy place. And the word is Auschwitz. The Holocaust. That's the mystery. The Holocaust in Auschwitz. It was a satanic inversion.
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah. And you know who the high priest was over this? It was Hitler. Hitler was over the Holocaust. And you know the last offering of the Holocaust was Hitler's own life. He kills himself, and then what does he do? He ordains that his body be burned. And so the last Holocaust of the Holocaust was Hitler himself. And that brings us to, to the next part. So Hitler, and there's so much, I'm just giving you a taste. You understand there's so much. But the thing is so now Hitler, who is the master of the altar, and it's in Berlin, Hitler's ruling from Berlin. The throne is the whole entire time that he ruled from Berlin, the throne of Satan was right with him. So now he's dead. So there's nobody who has the altar. There's no owner. And that lasts for only one day. The next day, the altar is going to pass into the hands of another. And as it passes into the hands of another, it's going to change history again. And so what happens? What happens is, in Berlin, soldiers are running through Berlin, and these soldiers come upon this structure. See, now Hitler was in a bunker hidden in Berlin.
Right.
But in another bunker, the Nazis were hiding something else. In another bunker in Berlin, they're hiding the throne of Satan. And so now these soldiers come upon the bunker, they open it up, and there is the throne of Satan. And so they take possession of it. Who was it? The soldiers were the soldiers of the Red Army.
That's right.
And so now the altar, the throne of Satan. I mean, listen, you again, I'm going to say this a few times. I don't say, you can't make it up. The throne of Satan is going from Nazi Germany to the Soviet Union. And what is the center of evil going to happen in the world? If the center of evil is going from the Nazi Germany to the Soviet Union. And now which brings up a whole other thing, because right now, not only are we still dealing with anti-Semitism in America, we're dealing with the revival of socialism.
Yeah.
But socialism is linked to, or in the form of Marxism, is linked to the throne of Satan. And here's the thing. Karl Marx was, first of all, for those who don't know, he was German. Okay. Marxism and communism, they don't come from Russia. It all comes from Germany, where the altar was. And the thing is, Karl Marx knew about Jesus. And the thing is that, and when he was 17, he writes a devotion to Jesus. But when he's 18, they send him to Berlin. Berlin is the place where the altar, the throne of Satan, is going to be. And he changes. A transformation happens. And he starts writing strange verses. And one of the things he starts writing, he writes that, I will exalt my throne. It's literally the words of Satan in Isaiah. I will exalt my throne. I will bring the world to destruction. I will walk the ruins of the world as a god. This is Karl Marx. I have a sword. The sword is from the Prince of Darkness, Karl Marx. He says everything that exists deserves to be destroyed, Karl Marx. So Karl Marx says, and he ends up writing the manifesto. Nobody reads it. He's a has-been. We would never have heard of Karl Marx. He's living in exile. His life is over, pretty much. Nobody talks about him. But something happens that changes all that and resurrects it. I won't go into the detail except to say this. What happens is, when they bring the altar to Berlin, to the land of Karl Marx, all of a sudden there's a resurrection of Marxism. It resurrects Marxism. And the Communist Manifesto was reissued now as the Communist Manifesto spreads to the world. And it spreads to Russia. And in Russia, you have a child who is born just when they put the shovels into Pergamon to unearth, to dig up Satan's throne. So I said Hitler was born linked to the throne when he put it together. This child is linked to the moment they uncover the altar and dig it up. And the child is given the name Joseph Stalin. So these are considered the two monsters of the modern world, are both born with the altar. Born with it. And so communism and even the Soviet Union is all, I'm just giving a little taste of it, is all, behind it all is the throne of Satan, is the altar of Pergamon. And literally, this is going to go to what happens to the Soviet Union when they get the throne of Satan. All of a sudden they become a superpower. It's like they're darkly anointed, and all of a sudden communism owns the throne of Satan. I mean, that should tell you something. Communism has the throne of Satan, and what happens? Communism begins to spread. It takes over Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
Takes over, China, until 1 out of every 3 people on the planet are living under the darkness of communism while they have the throne of Satan. So all that, I mean, is there, and at the same time, the word devil, people use the word, they don't know what it means. It comes from diabolus, and diabolus means, you could translate it often as the accuser, but it actually means the divider, the one who casts through, the divider. So if Satan can divide, he can destroy. So what does he do? He uses communism to divide the world. And so, and where does that division start? It starts right in Berlin with the throne of Satan. Think about it. Where's the Cold War begin? With the throne of Satan. And it spreads through Berlin, Germany, Europe, the world, And so you have now 2 sides that are at war with each other and that can destroy the world. Remember, Satan is a destroyer. Let me throw one thing and I'll take a break. That's a lot of rules.
No, this is great. I love it. Deep into the pool, folks.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
So the thing is that what's like the biggest holiday of communism? What's the high holiday? It's May Day.
May Day, May 1st.
That's where they had all the parades of their weapons and all that.
Delivered. Absolutely delivered.
Yeah. Well, it was May Day long before it was ordained as May Day. In actually the 19th century. Actually, when it was? When they got their high holiday? It was actually the same time, 1889, when they put the altar together and Hitler came into the world. That same year, Lenin picks up a copy of Marx. That same year, they adopt the red flag for communism. I mean, everything happens with that altar. So the thing is, May Day, they're celebrating May Day for years. Well, the day, it was prophetic. The day that the soldiers came upon the throne of Satan, the red soldiers, it was May Day. So it was almost like a prophecy.
Sure.
That was the day. And then every time they're celebrating May Day, they're actually celebrating the day they acquired the throne of Satan. Yeah. So anyway, let me take a break for a second. So I want to.
I mean, there's so many things I could comment on. Let's just start with the May Day thing, because America's Stonehenge, I have 2 films on this. I've been there numerous times. So they have these standing stones. It's the oldest. What am I trying to say here? It's one of the oldest sites in the Americas, about 4,000 years old. It's in New Hampshire. It's called America's Stonehenge. There are these standing stones that are all around this thing. So modern day archaeologists poo-poo it and say, well, it's all Native American. No, it's not Native American. So when you stand in the center of the hedge and you look out, there's a standing stone. Guess what that standing stone is? May 1st, May Day. Same thing in Newark, Ohio, the Great Circle Mound. The Great Circle Mound in Ohio. When you stand there and you look at the gateway on May 1st, the sun comes up right in the gateway. And Native Americans knew nothing about this. So May 1st, what I'm trying to get at here, this is it's a cult, a go-go, for crying out loud. I want to tell you one quick story. When I was running on the beach in Malibu, I did this for years. There was this elderly man, very sick German accent. He would talk like this. I go, "Good morning, Freddie." Go, "Oh, hi, how are you today?" A very, very old man, probably in his 90s then, something like this. So I got wind from a friend of mine that this guy's an ex-Nazi. So one day I get the courage up to go and talk to him. So I do, and I go, Fred, I'm working on a book, and you know, I understand you were in World War II and on the side of Germany. And he goes, oh yes, that's just so long ago. So he's trying to dodge.
Right.
It was passed away now. And I go, let me ask you something. In my research, I've discovered that Hitler was an occult adept. He was immersed in the occult. Is there any truth to that? Jonathan, it was like something out of a film. He just pauses, and it's like he's looking far, far away. His whole face just he's looking at something, and he starts nodding his head like this, and he goes, "Yes, you could say that." And it was just like, I mean, it just completely blew me away. I mean, the occult connection is so documented, and yet it's most of the church has no idea.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, it is, and I'm glad you brought up with May Day, because the other thing of it is, and you know this, but no, the other one is that, so this day, which then becomes the high holy day of communism, day that they got the throne of Satan, exact day, is also a high holy day on the satanic calendar.
Bingo.
This is our high holy day of the devil, and this was the central day of communism. Yes, absolutely. Now, so now what happens is, I said, yeah, baby, yeah, folks, hold on. You have the Diabolus, you have the devil dividing the world. Okay, so, and many of us grew up in that world. We grew up in a world that was divided and on the edge of destruction. And the thing is that, and so what happens? Because if you can divide, you can destroy. Well, when the Red Soldiers, when they got the throne of Satan, they were ordered by Moscow to put them on put the pieces on trains in crates, again, like Indiana Jones. It goes over to Russia, and you know who now is the possessor of the altar? Joseph Stalin, the other child who was born with the altar. Yeah, and now he's the other, who also killed millions of people. And also, and by the way, wherever the altar goes, the power is a power that hates the Jews, that hates Christians, that wars against Israel in some way, or wars against the Jewish. I mean, look at that. I mean, look, so that's exactly what happens. That's linked to the throne. It's almost like getting like those who possess the altar, the throne of Satan, get possessed by it. And so Germany itself was possessed. Became a nation that was possessed. And now you have Russia. Well, the thing is that, and by the way, interesting. Look at this. Both powers were powers that once knew God. And so it's more dangerous than a culture that has never known God. A pagan culture is a culture that has known God, but turned away from God. And then that's what happened. Then you get Germany, then you get Nazis, then you get fascism, then you get communism. So then you get the Antichrist. So there you are. Okay, so now in 1958, I'm following. I had to research this to follow where the altar was. The Soviet Union decides for political reasons, to transport the altar back to East Berlin. So they're still possessed. Right. Their soldiers are there. They're still over it, but the location has changed. Communism still has the throne of Satan, but it's now, okay, they do it, and all of a sudden something happens. As when they put it back in Berlin, East Berlin, all of a sudden the superpowers come to almost World War III over Berlin. Okay. It's called the Berlin Crisis, begins in 1958. And when it begins? It begins in November. You know when the altar arrived in Berlin? In November. So as soon as it arrives, you have almost the world beginning to come to the point of destruction. The enemy wants to destroy the world. Well, the crisis simmers, but it continues until Kennedy becomes president. And then Khrushchev of the Soviet Union meets with Kennedy, and he says, we want you out of Berlin. We want all of Berlin. Kennedy refuses. And so what does Khrushchev do? Khrushchev builds the Berlin Wall. Okay. At the Berlin Wall, there's a crisis. You may remember, it's that checkpoint Charlie. There's a crisis, and all of a sudden, you have the soldiers of the Soviet Union with tanks and guns on one side of the wall. You've got tanks and guns from America on the other side of the wall. Both powers are preparing for a nuclear war over the throne of Satan. Berlin and the throne of Satan is right there. So literally almost again brings the world to destruction. But that brings up something else. The enemy, how could he destroy the world? If we have the power of destruction, could the nuclear destruction actually be linked to this ancient mystery of this altar from Pergamon? Well, here's the thing. What kind of altar was it? It was the altar of burning, fire, destroying. What fire could destroy anything more than anything else? Nuclear fire. And so where, if I ask, like, when did the nuclear age begin? It didn't begin in 1945 in New Mexico. It began at the throne of Satan in Berlin. People don't realize this. It is right by the throne of Satan. The throne of, listen, think about this. How do we use the word Holocaust today? Remember, it's the altar of the Holocaust. We used it to speak of Hitler, or the only other time we use it is we speak of nuclear Holocaust. That's true. The two fires, and they both are linked to the altar. The fire of nuclear destruction began in Berlin at the throne of Satan when two German scientists split the atom. It happened in Berlin at the throne of Satan. And Hitler, under Hitler, I mean, think about the enemy's plan. I mean, Hitler was in grasp of it. He almost got it, but he didn't. The Lord caused America to get it, and that saved the world, literally. And actually, there's a mystery. I won't go into it. Why America got it instead of Hitler goes back to Leviticus and has to do with the Jewish people. That's why people like Einstein and Oppenheimer and all these people were Jewish. Okay, that's another story. All right, so now you've got the world divided. You got two powers, and they both can destroy the world. And this is going to bring it to the most dangerous moment in world history, which was the Cuban Missile Crisis. It almost, and for those who don't know, is that
I lived through that. Yeah, I was the Addy.
Russia sends missiles to Cuba. America discovers it. Kennedy quarantines the island of Cuba, sent with American ships. Russian ships are coming with more missiles. The world is preparing for nuclear destruction. I mean, literally, people are getting into bomb shelters. They're putting dog collars on their kids. I mean, literally. And it almost comes to it. But there's a whole secret story that that they never tell. And there's a secret behind that secret. And that is, it wasn't about those missiles in Cuba. The real story was Khrushchev was at the Black Sea, and they pointed out to him that America had missiles there on the other side of the sea aimed at Russia. And by the way, America put there because of the Berlin. It was what happened in Berlin. It was all from the throne of Satan. That both sides started adding missiles all around the world. So Khrushchev said, "Okay, you put missiles right here. We're going to put missiles at your doorstep."
Right.
And so it wasn't the Cuban missiles. It was the missiles by the Black Sea that almost brought the world to destruction. So where were they? The missiles that almost destroyed the world were all stationed in the land of Pergamon. They were all standing.
You can't make this up. You can't even
make it up. The ancient kingdom of Pergamon at the throne of Satan. If that had happened, we wouldn't be here today to do this interview. They were all, that's how real this is. And by the way, what god was associated with that altar and that land? It was Zeus or Jupiter. The missiles bore the name of the god Jupiter.
Wow.
That almost destroyed the world. And this is gonna go to where we are right now, because to bring it forward. All right. So what happens? You know, the amazing thing about that is that you just follow the altar and you see what.
Where is the altar now? That was my next question.
Yeah.
Where is it now?
Well, okay. Here's where to look.
Zimber, buckle up, folks.
Well, so those are when I get to the thing about the American, the leader in America. There is another story aside this, but it's okay. So the altar is in Berlin, but at this moment, at 1989, okay, the wall comes down. Okay, so what happens? Communism is cut off from the altar. It no longer possesses the altar. So what happens to communism? Well, yeah. You can follow history. They on one hand, an evil left complete. On one hand, there's an evil that lifts from those places, but also power lifts. The altar. What happens to the Soviet Union is cut off from the altar? What happens? It collapses overnight. Okay, so now whenever the altar changes hands, now here it's not changing location, but it's changing hands. It's changing possession. So now there's always a change of power. So there's always a beginning of a rise of power. So what is the new power? And the first part is this. This is where it's going to converge with end-time prophecy. The enemy tried to destroy the world by dividing it, but he couldn't. So now, if they follow the altar, he's trying to possess the world by bringing the world together as one, which is end-time prophecy. Okay, so what happens? What happens is as soon as the altar comes down, as the wall comes down with Berlin, the world's going to follow Berlin again. The wall comes down in Germany, the division comes down in Eastern Europe, and the Cold War, as we have known it, is over.
Right.
And so now, all of a sudden, this is the early 1990s, all of a sudden, what is everybody talking about? It's all talking about a globalization, new world order, the world coming together. The world starts globalizing. I mean, it accelerates all over. And at the same moment, what else is bringing the world together? The internet, the web. When is the web conceived? The web was conceived the moment the wall came down. The web was conceived in 1989. The web came into existence in 1990, the moment Germany came back into existence. And in Hebrew, in the web, it's World Wide Web. Every computer has www on it.
Right.
But in Hebrew, you don't have www. It's the letter vav, vav, vav. Every Hebrew letter is a number. The number is 666
Right.
on every computer. Okay, every computer. So now, and what is the power? And by the way, this is going to bring it to the American. I don't feel like to say, like, identify him on the web, but I'm going to talk around it. I do identify him in the book, but I don't want to. But I'll talk around it. There's an American leader who's actually linked to the altar of Pergamon at the throne of Satan. He goes, he's still around, and we know him all. He goes to the place of Satan's throne. And there he makes a speech to the world, calling the world together as one. We're not going to save it. Then he goes back to America and begins his rise to world power. And to begin the rise to world power, he's standing on a stage before America, before the world. Behind him, they build this structure. Yes, you know what I'm talking about. Everybody's saying, so what is it? It looks like some Greek temple. I don't know they realized what they were doing. But what they built was a reproduction of the altar of Pergamon, the throne of Satan, and he begins his rise. And interesting, and under his power, America is de-Christianizing.
That's right.
Rapidly. And by the way, think about this: the altar's in the West now. I mean, you could say it's it's a one world thing, but it's also in the West. So now, what happened to Europe? Europe de-Christianized rapidly, and America also. It's a whole different ball game now.
It is.
And the thing is that there is and specifically, something comes into a new power. Whenever the altar changes, a new power comes in. What was the new power that suddenly came into the world? It came in right after the Berlin Wall fell, and right after the change of the altar. It's the European Union. The European Union is actually, who possesses the altar ultimately? It's the European Union now, because Germany is part of the European Union. European Union is over the altar, and that brings up another mystery, because the thing is that, what was the last power to have the altar when it was burning, functioning? Rome. The altar disappears, Rome disappears. But the altar comes back. What does that mean? It means there's going to be a Rome back. The Bible speaks about a Rome, which is the one world state. And what is the power on earth right now that has more of Rome than any other entity on earth? It's the European Union. And it has the altar. It has the throne of Satan. And it's becoming increasingly anti-Christian and anti-Israel. And there is an ancient myth, I'm sure you know it, but there's an ancient myth where there's a princess who a god falls in love with the princess, lusts after her. He turns himself into a bull. The princess gets on the bull abducts her. He reveals himself as the god and seduces her. Okay, what was the princess's name? The princess's name is Europa, which, in other words, that is the name Europe. We call it Europe. It's Europa. That's what Europe is named after, an ancient princess who gets seduced by a false god. And who is the false god? It's Zeus, who seduced her. So now you got the altar of Zeus going to the land possessed by Europa. Okay, and so what is that? What is Europe? Europe is the woman who wants to do the Lord, but gets seduced by a false god. So when the altar comes to Germany, it comes to Europe. And what happens? Europe gets seduced by Nazism, taken over. Then it gets seduced by communism. And then it's going to get seduced by the Antichrist.
Yeah.
And globalism. And the Antichrist, and what's the European Union? European Union is nations that are coming together as one. That's the sign for the rest of the world. And if the Antichrist is linked to that, what will the Antichrist possess? He will possess the throne of Satan. He will possess the altar. And this goes back to, the mystery actually goes back to the Temple Mount. At the beginning we said the enemy says, I will sit on the throne of God. I will hold my throne. I'll sit on the mountain. Well, where's the throne of God on earth? It's the Temple Mount. That's where he was enthroned. And so what does Satan want? He wants that. And so the interesting thing, a whole nother mystery is that, you know where this all began? It began, you know the story of Hanukkah. I'm not going to go through it, but you know Hanukkah. Yeah, sure. A false god, a guy who's like a shadow of the Antichrist, Antiochus, sets up an idol an idol and an altar on the Temple Mount, and he tries to eradicate the faith of the Bible. Well, he fails. They take it. The Maccabees take the temple back, and he erected an altar. You know what he erected? He erected the altar of Zeus on the throne of God, which is really the throne of Satan. And so they got it off. But here's the secret story here. Antiochus had a friend, an ally. You know, his friend was the king of Pergamon. And so when the altar went off of the Temple Mount, the enemy lost it. Then his friend, the king of Pergamon, built the altar of Pergamon on Pergamon. And so that has been the battle. Wherever this altar goes, there's that war continues against Israel, against the people of God, Christians, against the Jewish people. And if you go, and you may know this, if you go on the Temple Mount today, you'll find on the throne of God is this dome of the rock.
Yeah.
And sure, look at the rock, and you look at the formation of the rock, that forms a image. And the image is a clear image of the face of Satan on the throne of God. So here literally he says, I will exalt. Right over it is the face of Satan. I mean, so, and by the way, one, I'll just throwing this in, this is on the house. Listen, just because I'm with you and we kind of trigger each other. And one of the things is that, you know, and it's amazing because the world, we're dealing with socialism, we're dealing with anti-Semitism, hatred of Israel. Well, the other thing is that why did the throne of Satan come back when it did? Well, one reason is it was at the same time that Europe was beginning to turn away from the gospel. I mean, turn away from God in a big way. You know, Germany was into higher criticism, so that opened the door. But the other reason is even better, and that is that God was beginning to fulfill the prophecies that he had. He said, I will bring back my ancient people to the land of Israel. And the devil knows that when the Jewish people come back to the land of Israel, that starts someone else is coming back.
Oh, yeah.
He's finished. So what would he do? At the same moment, it was like the 1870s when the Jewish people start trickling back. That is when the altar of Satan comes back into the world. And where does it go? Germany. What is Germany trying to do? Wipe out the Jews before they can come back. Why does the enemy go crazy just before Israel comes back? And the Soviet Union. So it's all part of this mystery, but it also tells us that, yeah, that it's all coming back. And what we're watching the world hate Israel, it's all linked together, but because the king is coming. And so the good news is, listen, every book, and you know this, like every book I write, it always ends with hope. And that is that, listen, this is telling you, number one, yes, the devil is real. It's not an idea. This has affected every one of our lives. But the thing is that means God is even more real. And that means every word of God is totally real. Every promise of God is real. And it means also, you know, the devil's been trying to destroy Israel for thousands of years. Yeah. And every power that did is gone, but Israel's still here because we are on the winning side and we do prevail and he is coming and the king is coming. So ultimately it's, you know, it's about being strong. It's real, you know, and I'll just say this. One of the reasons I did this, you know, I was led to do this with this story.
Yeah, like that was my next question. What's the nexus for this book? My last question.
Well, in a nutshell, just, you know, I was led to, like I wrote The Harbinger. It's all true. Everything we just said, everything we talked about today is true. It's real. And I only gave a taste of it because there's so much wrong. But the thing is that I was led to do it like I did The Harbinger with a story. So like Indiana Jones, like Da Vinci Code, but for God. And so it's a man who is a skeptic, you know, who doesn't believe anything. And he's given a page of a cryptic book. And he can't interpret it. He needs the help of a woman whose name is Lara, who is actually a believer. And they're enemies, but they're forced together to go across the world with each page. They go to Istanbul, they go to Havana, Cuba, they go to Berlin, they go to Jerusalem. And every point and every time there's someone waiting for them, a kind of strange person, kind of like the guy on the beach that you met. But a stranger, but a person could be a boy, could be something, and they have the next piece of the mystery and they give them the next page of the book. Meanwhile, there's an organization linked to the altar that's trying to stop them at all costs. And so it ends up, so I wrote it that way, not only to make it like you don't even realize that you're reading it and there's like 200 mysteries coming, but also that people anybody who doesn't know the Lord, it doesn't matter if they're against the Lord. Oh, wow, that sounds like Indiana Jones Da Vinci Code. I want to get, they'll get it. They'll get into it. But it's actually going to unfold the truth of God, and it leads to salvation. So I'm praying that people will not only get the altar program for themselves, they'll get it for, if you have anybody in your life who doesn't know the Lord, get it for them, because that's what it's all about. And it does lead to salvation.
All I can say is this: I can't wait to get the book. It's right up my alley. I can't wait to get it.
That's why I like doing it, that you didn't read. So we're reacting and
Oh yeah, I mean, this is fantastic stuff. It's my wheelhouse. Jonathan, how do people get the book?
the book is literally will be everywhere. The book, if you go on Amazon right now, and if you go on any place online, you get books, it's going to be there. The Altar of Pergamon. Just make sure it's not an archaeological book. It'll say the Altar of Pergamon,
Right.
the mystery of the dark angel, the future of the world. It's literally everywhere. It will be in every bookstore. But I pray again, get it for not just for yourself. I believe you're going to be blown away, but get it for people in your life. I don't know. Yeah, and make sure, listen, make sure we send that to you because they should have sent it to you. Well, make sure, I don't know, this might be out of focus. Okay.
No, there it is. Right.
This is what it looks like. The Altar of Pergamon, the mystery of the dark angel and future of the world. So it's literally everywhere.
Very cool.
You could, and even if it's not out, you can be ordered. But as we do this right now, it's about to come out.
No, wonderful. I can't wait. Can't wait to read it. CAHN, everybody, just incredible. Go to Amazon, Barnes and Noble, where books are sold. Thank you so much for coming on the record. Really appreciate it as always.
It is always a joy, and by the way, and you share things that nobody shares. No interviewer shares the things you share. Whether we're doing the Avatar, we're doing this, so it's always a joy. Thank you.
I'm gonna stay because I want to tell you something. I'm gonna turn off the cameras, turn off the recording because this is being mano a mano. You need to hear this. You need to hear this, folks. That's it for today. Go to the website, LAMarzulli.com. I'll be speaking at a couple of places. It's all there. Thank you, Jonathan, for coming on the record again. Appreciate it.
Death comes for us all. Today, it came for Bob.
This is your life, Mr. Frisbee. You call me Mr. O. Time does not exist here. We will go through every person you have ever wronged and everyone who has wronged you.
I can't forgive him. Oh, come down here.
Mary, who cannot enter heaven with hatred in your heart.
Take my hand, Bob. We'll go together. Are ye escaped?
Bob Frisbee must face every sin of his past. Will he find forgiveness in his heart or surrender to the darkness? Find out in the brand new novel by L.A. Marzulli, The Waiting Room.